Hey guys, my name is Joanna, also known as Just Another Flutist here on YouTube, and today we're going to be talking about how my own music dreams have changed over the years. I've told this story before, but for those of you who don't know, a quick recap for you guys is that I saw someone play the flute on TV when I was 5. I immediately thought to myself, that's it, that's going to be me. Especially as a kid, you really think that whatever you are dreaming of, that is going to just be your plan. And for some people it works this way, but at least from my experience, that is not actually the case for most people. Because of that one guy I saw play the flute on TV, I was like, I guess that's what you do as a flutist, so that's what I want to be. Mostly I just remember him being on stage with a spotlight on him. Fast forward a couple years and I'm finally learning the flute. I had never been exposed to the concept of developing tone until I started lessons. So it's not like now where like even if you don't play the flute or you don't play woodwind or brass instrument, you can go on YouTube now and kind of learn more about how to play that instrument without actually having that instrument in your hands and without actually being in a lesson. I didn't have that as a kid. YouTube did not exist when I was a kid. My literal first exposure to tone development was in a lesson. That was the first time I questioned myself as to whether I wanted to continue this thing, because developing tone was that boring. Especially for like a 9-year-old, it's very boring. You're literally just kind of sitting there playing long tones and you're not really sure what you're listening for, but your teacher can hear things that you can't hear yet, and so you feel like you're just droning the same tones over and over with no end in sight and without anything sounding different. You know, that was when I was like, is this really what flute practicing is about? Do I really want to keep doing this? Just because you do enjoy the instrument you play does not necessarily mean that you will naturally love every aspect of practicing it. I'm guessing that for a few people out there it is like that, but you guys are unfortunately the minority. So anyway, I continued on because I didn't really necessarily feel like there was a good reason for me to quit, because I still loved the flute, I just didn't like this part of practicing it. So I couldn't really justify telling my parents that I didn't want to play the flute again, because I did play the flute a lot. Then one summer, my teacher at that time did not really teach over the summer. She gave herself a break. She didn't necessarily assign things, but she just kind of like gave me a bunch of things to work on. And that was the summer when I was around, I'm guessing 11 or so, that I discovered how actually very interesting Trevor Wise tone book is. So I spent that entire summer only working on low register. That was it. Now that I actually had the time to read everything he had to say about tone and developing tone suddenly got a lot more interesting. So I went from like 0 to 100 very quickly. You never know when your opinion of things change. I come back after that summer and my teacher is like blown away by my low register tone, but really only my low register tone. At that point, I could care less about my tone in the middle register and the high register, but my low register was bomb. She gets me to start working on even more difficult things. I start to do showpieces, and then I used one of these showpieces, the Doppler Hungarian Pastoral Fantasy, to audition for my local youth orchestra. At that point, I had already been playing in that youth orchestra for a few years. I was actually asked by my conductor to perform it in one of our concerts with our orchestra, so as a soloist. Like, I cannot even tell you how excited I was, because this was it. I'm 14 years old at the time. My dream is already coming true. The dream of playing on stage with a spotlight on me. Can it get any better than this? Now keep in mind, this is a very small local youth symphony, so it actually, in the grand scheme of things, it actually wasn't a big deal. But to me, 14-year-old me, it was a huge deal. What was really weird was that I thought that what I would love about being in the spotlight was being in the spotlight. I thought I would enjoy everyone looking at me. I thought I would enjoy me being the center of attention. But what I ended up falling in love with was this feeling that I was in this very intimate space, that I was opening myself up. I was exposing my very intimate thoughts and emotions to these people. At the time, my family was preparing for our move from California to Canada. I was going through quite an emotionally turbulent time, and I was pouring all of those emotions into this performance. And I wasn't expecting loving this feeling of being completely myself. I can express these emotions that have been cooped up in my head for so long, and I'm not judged for it. These people are understanding these emotions that are coming out of me. I loved it, and I wanted that again. I realized that that kind of opportunity doesn't come very often. My dream of being in the spotlight again kind of faded, but I was hungry for that feeling of connecting with the audience again. I felt it once, and I know that it's real, but I didn't know how to get it again. When you're going for festivals and stuff like that, you're not actually playing for an audience. You're playing for judges, and you're playing for your competitors. Anyway, I make my way to music school, and music school is very competitive. You can feel it when you're in music school. The spirit is very competitive. I don't know if you can tell with the way that I'm talking to you guys. I'm not a very competitive person. I actually kind of suck at being competitive. I've never been able to win first place in a solo competition. The highest I ever get is second. But I was handpicked by a clarinetist to be part of a student wind quintet that she was forming. So I quickly became known as a chamber flutist at school. So if ever someone wanted to work with a chamber flutist on a chamber piece, they would ask me. And I loved that. When you're playing music with someone else, and you guys just gel. Or like another really fun part that I love about chamber music is letting that other person do their thing, and then I just kind of like fit into their groove. I kind of manipulate my own tone and technique to sound like theirs, and it's just, it's so magical. As you can tell, I still freaking love it. It's amazing to be raw and authentic and genuine with other people doing the same thing, expressing ourselves to other people, and for those people to be receiving you being yourself with other people. Like, it was just amazing to have this now two-way connection. I don't know how else better to explain this super magical feeling of performing chamber music. So my dream changed. I want to play in a chamber group for the rest of my life. Go touring, we can do even more competitions, because suddenly I was like, this is what I'm good at. I found out what I'm successful at, and it still has that connection that I fell in love with. But fast forward a few years, and I actually tried to audition for the Masters in Chamber Music Performance at the San Francisco State University. I auditioned for it, got in, but the computer system does not recognize non-string players as being eligible for this program in chamber music. The quartet in residence there is a string quartet. There is no wind quintet in residence there. On paper, it said that you could as a wind player, but on the computer, they couldn't really make it work. The director actually had to ask me to come into his office to have a little chat. I was really surprised to find out that he was literally asking me for permission to put me in a master's in flute performance. But what he did was he promised that I would get all of the chamber music opportunities that they could offer me. I was like, you know what? If it's easier on your system, fine. That's what I kind of realized. I was like, okay, maybe my dream needs to kind of change again. I realized then that my wind quintet idea from my bachelor's probably was not going to pan out. A wind quintet flourishes when each member is just as passionate about keeping it going. Our wind quintet members just kind of went our separate ways. It was not on bad terms at all. In fact, I think we pretty much all agree that our wind quintet was kind of the driving force of making us even go to school. We loved it that much, but in the end, it just didn't work out for all 5 of us. However, the one thing that I did not let go of was the fact that I wanted to feel this sort of raw, genuine, authentic connection. Now, here's the thing. I don't think it comes as a surprise that I was attracted to YouTube. I didn't get into it until around 2007 or 2008. That's when I started watching people like Michelle Phan. I started watching people like Wong Fu Productions. I finally saw people who looked like me doing, you know, entertainment. Again, the one thing that I really got from these 2 channels was this feeling of raw, authentic connection. These people get me and I get them. I was the audience. I wanted so badly to find someone like them, but who is a classical musician. I couldn't find that person. I looked high and low. I was sort of bemoaning the fact that I couldn't find this person to my family. Plus, I was just showing them all these YouTubers. And then eventually they told me that, you know, hey Joe, you talk a lot, so why don't you give YouTube a try? So I was like, oh, never really seriously thought about that, but okay. So I decided to just try things. Like, what kind of things would I like to see on a YouTube channel, and I will try that. And then it just kind of became this thing where I found this space where I could be my raw, authentic, genuine self, and I could connect with a bunch of people. It just so happens that I'm doing it in my room by myself, talking to a camera. I didn't have to pretend to be this great flutist. I could just be another flutist. I don't have to put out a whole resume for you guys. Like, I could just tell you guys what I think, what I've experienced. I don't have to feel shameful for anything I've been through, because I can share that with you guys and know that, sure, there's gonna be a couple of people out there judging me, but that's fine. It's just that when I make myself vulnerable to you guys, that's when you guys start saying things like, oh my gosh, that happens to you too? Well, that makes me feel not as crazy. And I'm like, oh, it also makes me feel not crazy too. Like, just so you guys know, there is like a fully a two-way thing going on here. I was just like, this is it. I like accidentally found what I want to do. But I didn't necessarily feel that it was a very viable business move, I guess is the best way you can call it, because YouTube is so unpredictable. I kind of actually put YouTube sort of in the back burner. If you guys have stuck with me for a very long time, you'll know that a few years ago I was only posting like once a month or once every other month. I thought to myself, okay, I have now come up with this identity as Just Another Flutist, and I love it. What does Just Another Flutist do? Just Another Flutist will have like a studio of students, maybe play in a local community orchestra, and then just do a few gigs here and there and have some fun. And I was like, that actually sounds really great. It took me a while actually to realize that the act of teaching gave me energy. You know how sometimes if you're doing a job that you really don't like, it drains energy out of you? But if you're doing a job that you love, you just start bursting with energy. You just get really excited and you get really nerdy. Like, it just bubbles over. You just can't stop talking about the great things that happened at your job, you know, and people think you're a geek. I keep coming back to this, but I just have this connection with these students. You know, I can be myself and I can explain what I've been through and help them. I can really further their development, not only as a flutist, but like sometimes even just as a human being. I had a lot of parents telling me that their kids actually did a lot better in like presentations. They did a lot better in school, like concentrating and stuff like that, ever since they started having lessons with me. So as you can see now, we're getting to the point where I'm getting out of my master's and I'm starting to get a feel of what I love, what gives me energy. And I'm starting to get a feel of sort of like the theme of what makes me feel fulfilled. And what makes me feel fulfilled, if you still have not figured it out, is a connection with people. Through talking, through playing the flute, through teaching, I can be 100% me and I can help them. Like, I can make them feel, one, that they're not alone. I can give some tips on what I've been through and make their experiences that much better. That to me is just like, I can't get enough of it. Coming out of my master's, I ended up moving up here to Seattle. At this point, I was like, yes, I have found out that I want to teach. So you can see how far my dream has changed now, right? I message every single school in the vicinity of where I live. I email them, I tell them who I am. I would love to come in and do a show and tell. Share the flute with your kids, and then if any of the kids want to have lessons, they'll know that I am local. Not a single school replied to me. And to this day, there has not been a single reply. This happened like 4 years ago now, I think. I was devastated because suddenly I was in this place where I thought that I could like start creating a studio, and it wasn't happening. I got pretty depressed because I was like, what am I doing? Who am I if not doing what I love? While I didn't get a reply from these schools, I started to get random emails from you guys. The one that convinced me to give it a shot was the parent of a young viewer. And she was like, we know that you're not giving Skype lessons because you don't have it anywhere and you've never mentioned it before, but can you please consider it because my daughter loves watching you and I love watching you with her. Would you like to give flute lessons over Skype a run? We can be your guinea pigs. And I was like, oh, because here are people who are literally offering me a job over the internet in terms of physical lessons. I can't get anything. So I'm really left with only YouTube and the internet to give me a job. So I was like, okay. In my head, I was thinking to myself, I'm not actually really into Skype lessons because I can't actually like touch them or tweak anything, or you know, I can't feel how fast their airflow is going or anything like that. So I don't know if it's gonna work. But at the same time, can you say no to a person who's literally offering you a job? No, you can't. You can't say no, okay? Like, I was jobless. I literally only had YouTube, and YouTube was only making me like 20 bucks a month at that point or something, probably less. So I ended up doing Skype lessons with this student for a year and kind of getting a feel of how things go. And what do you know? I end up loving it. It made my videos a lot better because I was constantly being forced to practice how to verbalize this stuff to, you know, people that I can't physically touch. So I ended up setting up my whole online lessons page, all the rules and how the payment works and stuff like that. I couldn't believe it, but I guess now it's like a year and a half ago. The Flute Center of New York just randomly messaged me and I thought it was fake. It actually went into my spam inbox. So not only am I living the dream, I am living beyond what I thought would ever happen. Like, it never occurred to me that the Flute Center of New York would routinely, monthly send me flutes to review. Without the Flute Center of New York, I actually financially do not have the resources to just like rent random flutes and review them for you guys. Of course it entered my mind before that, like, wouldn't it be great if I reviewed a whole bunch of flutes? And I'm like, that would never happen because I can't afford it. This happening routinely now, like, I always have to kind of pinch myself like every month when I do these videos because I'm like, I can't believe this is my life. And so here I am today doing what I never imagined or thought that I would love this much, because I discovered that one thing while on stage at 14 years old. I discovered that what really fulfills me is the connection with people. And as long as I can have a connection with people, I am living the dream. Usually, all of your changing dreams has this one thing connecting all of it together. That if you're living that one conviction, then that is what fulfills you. Find out what is that one thing that binds all of your dreams together and live that, because I cannot tell you how happy and how satisfied it makes you feel. It's great, and I would love nothing more than for the rest of you guys to have this too. So I really hope that sharing my story just kind of helps you start thinking about yourself a little bit more if you haven't already. If you have already found this out and you're just kind of sharing in this experience with me, I would love it if you guys shared your experience with your dreams in the comments below. I think the more that we share, the more that those of us who are still dreaming and still figuring out what our dreams are, the more it'll just help guide all of us to our dream life. With that said, as usual, if you guys like this video, make sure you give me a big thumbs up and hit subscribe for new videos every Saturday. My last video is over there, and if you want to catch me during the week, my social media networks are down there. But otherwise, I will see you guys next week. Bye. However, at that time, I was deemed too small by my local music store to play the flute, so I started on the piano first. And I have an eyelash in my eye. Oh, wonderful. Right, okay. Hopefully, hopefully it's out. Is it out? I hope it's out. Anyway, it's been quite a while since I've had makeup on last, and I think my eyes are like not used to it.